To this very spontaneous live session again that I thought that I would do it every week to talk about different topics, especially with my humanitarians and anyone who's listening to me and wanting to learn and apply things. So, one of the topics that I really want to talk about that came up from my session yesterday with my amazing client is that we tend to have these statements about ourselves like, I'm not an expert enough, or I'm not senior enough, or I have these communication issues, or I have this, I'm not really good at speaking or communicating in English, or whatever the thing that is that your brain keeps telling you that is not enough, and what to do about that topic. This is what I really wanted to help you out with. So, if you're someone who's having that, there might be one of two things happening. One is really that you don't really have something specific, in which case you can work on it and you will know what that is. But if you can't really pinpoint what that is, then your brain might be just using this as an excuse for you to hide more, for you to not be really showing up the way that you really want to show up. So, one of the things that we have explored with her yesterday is that because she has this belief that she's lacking self confidence, and therefore her brain has lots of other statements to just back up that main belief that she lacks the self confidence, and therefore she always has to think about a lot of the things of how to really speak up her mind, how to say what she's not really happy with, and how to communicate that with her senior management. And even though she's in a senior position, but still saying those things, she hasn't really practiced, and therefore her brain will always come up with lots of reasons for why she can't really say that, or she shouldn't be saying it, or even if she does, she needs to say it in a dialed down version, right? So that's why she spends a lot of time in doubts and hesitations, and all of that coming from that core belief of she's lacking self confidence. Even though when we look at her other areas of her life, it's not the case, but specifically in relation to certain people that she's talking to, or certain roles that she's talking to, then she starts having lots of this uh, thoughts, overthinking, and doubts and hesitations. So I see that in her case, that because she believes that she's lacking self confidence, and that's like a comfortable cushion that her brain has developed so that she doesn't have to speak up her mind, or she doesn't have to really be seen, right? She can just be in the hiding or in the background, and she feels just like comfortable. And our brains do that. Our brains create these cushions, these comfortable places for us to be in, so that we don't need to be really showing up the way we want to. We don't really be honest with ourselves and with the people we're speaking to. So we say exactly what's happening that we really want to say. And whenever we keep telling ourselves and using this excuse of we're not expert enough, we're not senior enough, we're not confident enough, whenever we keep using those, then we don't need to actually be uncomfortable, right? And because our brains don't like to be uncomfortable, and therefore we just choose instead keep using this as an excuse. So that's why I really want you to be careful to see that where you might be using your lack of self confidence, or a lack of expertise, or lack of whatever the thing that your brain thinks is not enough. You use that as an excuse for not really sharing your mind, sharing your expertise, sharing what your real opinion is in that environment where you are. Because if you really lack something in that area, ask yourself, what does expert even mean for you, right? Why or what you need to have in order to feel like an expert? What is it that you're actually like specifically, objectively missing that will then give you the title of you being an expert. Because think about it, all of these titles are very arbitrary, right? We have developed these expert title arbitrarily, and depending on who you ask, everyone's opinion about someone being an expert or not differs. So that's why, in the end, how do you define um, what the expert is or what the senior level is, and what is it missing specifically in your experience for you to become the expert, for you to become that senior? What is it that is actually missing? And if you cannot really pinpoint and find, then it's probably likely that your brain has developed this a comfortable place of telling us, no, 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 we're not an expert, we're not self confident, we're not this, therefore, we can't really say what really matters for us. We can't really say, speak up our mind, or we can't really be the way that we really want to in that workplace or in that relationship. Right. So that's why I really wanted you to have this awareness of how your brain might be using this as an excuse for you not to show up the way you want to, right? And if that's the case, then speak up your mind, be honest, even if it's uncomfortable. It's supposed to be uncomfortable, especially in the beginning, because taking up space, speaking up our mind, and speaking up even when it's very nervous, even when we're so afraid, these are the initial stages of showing up truly the way we want to. And it gets better over time, but in the beginning, that's how it's supposed to feel, and that's okay. So don't be uh, fooled, or don't be um, discouraged by this discomfort, right? Discouraged, or don't allow this discomfort to stand in the way of you being honest with yourself, you being honest with others, and telling them what's really happening, and showing your professional opinion, sharing your expertise opinion. So don't let the discomfort stand in the way. Don't let the fear stand in the way, because what happens is that if we don't speak up, if we don't say the things that we really want to say, then we will just be confirming more and more of how we lack the confidence, how we lack the expertise, and we just keep being in that loop of overthinking, over doubting and hesitating, and that will just not be useful. Think about it. Why do we really need to spend time overthinking about how we're not an expert, how we're not this and this and this? Because if we just approach it from that perspective, we will always be spinning, we will always be feeling stuck, and we will not really get to a constructive place. But if we go and approach it from, okay, let me try this out, let me speak up my mind, let me say this, even if it's very uncomfortable, even if it's so like feeling like something will explode inside me, let me still express it and say it, then we will feel so much relief, but also pride that we have done it. And this way, we start building our confidence more and more and more. We build our expertise more and more and more. And most importantly, we stay true to our opinions of what we really think, and sharing that with the world. Because if we don't share it with the world, we miss out on this, and we will be just confirming our biases to be true, and the world doesn't get to know who we are. And I really want you to think about, take it from someone like me, coming from a very a family where speaking up was not an option, and sharing emotions, feelings was not an option, and still learning to do that one time at a time, and speaking in another language, in a foreign language, speaking it in front of other people that I thought was scary, speaking it in front of people who are senior, right? Learning to do that step by step actually builds the confidence, rather than keep hiding and keep confirming our belief that we're not senior, we're not expert, we're not um, self confident. So, my dears, it's time for us to stop using lack of self confidence, lack of this, lack of that as a reason why we can't do XYZ. We can actually build them if we want to, or maybe we are actually just using them as an excuse and we just don't need to use them as an excuse anymore. Instead, start exploring if it wasn't the reason of self confidence, if it wasn't for me being expert, if those were not the reason why um, I'm not achieving, then what is it? And start exploring that and start like really getting curious as to if you just own being an expert, if you just own being a self confident, what would you do? What steps would you take? How would you approach it? How would you show up? And most importantly, who would you be in that environment where you are? So, my dears, I really hope that you will use this as a way to think about where you might be hiding your opinion, yourself, and where it's time to stop using these as an excuse to not go for what you really want to and start experiencing discomfort and these uncomfortable feelings and nervousness and still showing up and sharing your true opinion with the world, with yourself. And that is the amazing start of a journey of you feeling confident, you feeling an expert, and you feeling like you're actually making the difference in your own life by showing up honest and possibly in the lives of other people. Okay, have an amazing Wednesday and see you very soon, I guess.